All right. So, welcome, friends. This is the Saturday morning call here in Thailand. For the U.S., it's Friday evening. And today we will talk about several topics. But the one that I would like to start with is the topic of what is needed before we start practice, because there are some prerequisites and that many of us don't think about it or recognize it or anything. And so I would like to bring these out. And that one of the ways of uh, starting this off is by recognizing that here on this call, as well as on our two Discord groups, the Happy Gamer and the Dhamma friends, is that we divide people into the two groups, which is like those who have been around a while. Mikey is calling them seasoned students. And then we have new people on, new friends that we can call raw meat, I suppose. Uh, and that for those of you who consider yourself seasoned, you can reflect upon this in two ways. One is that you had those prerequisites someplace, because those who don't have the prerequisites never got to the stage of being seasoned students. And then you can also reflect upon it in the sense that new students who come in don't even know that there are these prerequisites. And so, as old students, we should make sure that the new students understand that there are prerequisites for practice. And that you could go so far as to say that almost all the prerequisites have to do with attitude. That if you don't think that you need anything, if you think you already know the Dhamma, those two attitudes would not be conducive to good practice. Now, Ivan, where is that? There we are, Ivan. Hello, good morning, Ivan. Ivan was very kind and fortuitous to mention one of these prerequisites that I had known about, had been working with, but probably not as skillfully as possible. But I would like to recognize this for the group, and that is that one of the major prerequisites is the attitude of respect. The Dhamma is to be respected. That in fact, the monks are not allowed to teach the Dhamma. This is one of the Padimok rules: is that the monks do not teach the Dhamma to those who do not show respect for the Dhamma. And yet many people will come on the groups and do not have that respect. In fact, the funny part is that those who join the Dhamma friends generally join the Dhamma friends because they have seen one of the Guru Viking videos, and so they come on specifically for the Dhamma. To where the Happy Gamers group, generally younger people, come because they've been recruited from gaming Discord groups, and they come on with an attitude of, well, I'm a gamer and I can handle this. And they come on with not understanding, or many of them will come on also from psychotherapy or mental illness groups or places like that, and that they haven't come knowing that this is the place to get the noble Dhamma. So that's that group we need to pay a special attention to make sure that everybody who joins that group comes not just for the Dhamma, but also to come with a respectful attitude. Um, Ivan also pointed out two things about the Buddha himself, and that is one, that in his very first sermon, his very first talk with his 5 original students, he would not teach them until they showed him respect, that they started talking with him when he showed up as if he were just an old friend, an equal. And that we have to understand that from the day of the beginning of the Buddha, that he held himself aloof, higher than. He had nobility or a noble attitude. And that I invite each one of you to start developing that noble attitude with the concept of that you're actually better than ordinary people. That ordinary people do not have mindfulness, ordinary people do not have discernment, ordinary people do not seek seclusion, ordinary people are not restrained in their senses, even with their mouth, and that ordinary people do not have respect for the Dhamma. So those who come on with from Guru Viking generally come in with that small level of respect, and we have to make sure as old students to foster that we need to have respect for the Dhamma and for the old practitioners. That on these groups we have in fact monks who we have retired monks. We have one who has some years in it, and we've got several who are newer monks, but they already know this, that this is part of the monk's training, that we have to have a respectful attitude, that they have garnered respectful attitudes, and in fact, they would have never been able to ordain unless they had a respectful attitude. And this is one of the reasons why I generally point people who are wanting to become monks to point them to really senior, well established, noble teachers so that they would have that respect. Now, another way of looking at the respect, we'll use the word shraddha or sada. Now, the word shraddha actually has the word confidence as a translation into English, though it is often translated as the word faith. And I'll bring in the distinction between faith and confidence is that the word faith means that you've got no evidence at all. You're going to have to take it directly on faith. And the Buddha Dhamma is not taught just on faith, but is based upon confidence that the new student who is about to practice should have the confidence that he gains from the people who are around him that are practicing. Gain confidence from the senior teachers, gain confidence from the seasoned teachers, that they know that they've got something and that they would be delighted to share that with the new people. And yet, what I find instead on Discord is we wind up getting into arguments with these guys because they don't have that uh, respect. They think that they already know it all, and that because of that, they're not going to get any Dhamma. That in fact, I counted them up, and I've seen 6 people in the past month or two have left our Discord groups simply because they became frustrated because they didn't come in with the attitude of respect. And so this is something that we can keep in mind when we're working with new people, is to help them understand that this is the noble Dhamma. This is the only teaching that has ever come about that is actually liberating. That's why it's so special. One time, not long ago, last week or so, we talked about 84,000 dhatus, or 84,000 points, in the sense that there are 84,000 different wrong paths. I've seen people talk about the Vajrayana, Mahayana, Theravada, Zen, and others as different paths up the mountain. And I must point out that uh, those differences there is just the baggage that people bring to the mountain, but that there is only one path up the mountain, and that one path is followed by the Vajrayana. That in fact, I haven't mentioned it for a long while, but the Dalai Lama is someone that we can consider from the Theravada or any other Buddhist perspective, is that he is noble. And the reason that I know that he is noble is because he has in fact come to Wat Suan Mok and considered Bhikkhu Buddhadasa his elder brother. Now, the elder brother is just another word for he respected Bhikkhu Buddhadasa enough to travel all the way to Thailand just to meet him. And so the Dalai Lama came to Bhikkhu Buddhadasa with that air of respect, even though he had been the Lama, the big dude in uh, Tibet and then Dhammarato. And yet they became good friends. So that's one of the examples that I use is that I do not see much distinction between the Tibetan practice and the Theravada practice, other than the Tibetans have a lot of baggage. It's called Tibetan culture. And so they, in fact, may have more baggage than the Thai people. However, the Thai people also have quite a lot of baggage, but when they come to the Wat, they drop that baggage and take on an air of respect for the teachers. That's one of the things that you can say about the Wats in Thailand is that people come to those Wats with this understanding of that we're here respectful of the fact that the people who live here are practicing according to the teachings of the Buddha. So that would be the main thing. And I really appreciate Ivan for bringing that up so that we can understand that there are actually these prerequisites. If you don't have the right attitude for the Dhamma, you're not going to be able to even get started on the Dhamma. Now, along with that attitude of respect, hello, Scott, good to see you.
Hello, good to see you.
Along, we're talking about respect for the Dhamma. Now, Scott's an old student, and he's been around for a long time. Scott, I want to pick on you for a second, in the sense that I watched him develop his respect for the Dhamma, because it's only after we have the respect for the Dhamma and respect for others that we gain that confidence that we actually can gain value, to where a lot of people will begrudgingly start to practice because they don't see the value in it. They don't see the value because they didn't come with that attitude of respect. And so that issue of Shraddha, or the ability to gain confidence, that was one of the important things now that we can see that not everybody who came to the Buddha had that kind of respect, had that kind of confidence. But if they don't have that respect and that confidence, they will not, in fact, ever be able to get on the path of right practice. Now, one of the points of the right practice is that it does take effort. In fact, it takes quite a lot of effort, but it's not heavy effort, but rather it's repetitive effort that we have to keep doing it and keep doing it. That one of the ways of looking at the Dhamma is that it is operating instantly as soon as you practice correctly. The first time you sit down, if you're practicing correctly, you get benefit right then and there. That in fact, if you can come out of your unwholesome thoughts, come out of your dukkha, come out of your hindrances right then and there, coming into a state of satisfaction the very first time that you practice, you're enlightened. This is why the Zen group, the masters, talk to their Zen students. I don't think that they talk to newbies like this, but to the old established students, they tell them, you're already enlightened. Why? Because you have already come to the state that you can, in fact, clear out your mind. But brand new students, they don't even have the right attitude that they could clean out their mind, and that we need this confidence so that we can practice over and over and over again to clean out the mind one time after another until we really see the benefit. And there is great benefit for practicing correctly. That in fact, even in the Anapanasati, at the Anapanasati Sutta, at the very beginning of it, on the first or second page, it talks about that practicing Anapanasati correctly will gain you great fruit, great value, great benefit. If you continue to practice, you will gain more and more benefit. And also in the Anapanasati Sutta, it talks primarily for each one of the items is that this is a skill to be developed. It states it in the sense of, thus one trains oneself. An example of that is gladdening the mind. We train the mind to become gladdened. What that means is that we're changing our attitude from the attitude of a victim, victim of circumstances, victim of the weather, victim of the poison that we just ate, victim of the unwholesome mind, but that we're changing the attitude from being a victim to being on top of that, to being on top of the world. And this is a fairly gradual thing. However, the only gradual part of it is because we are reluctant to see the benefit. We are reluctant to see the value, and that partly has to do with our respect for the Dhamma. But if we respect the Dhamma and respect other practitioners, then we can see very quickly, very immediately, wow, stuff is great. This stuff really works. To be able to clean out the mind, to be able to change, to be able to gain value from this right away. And as we continue to practice over and over and over again, remembering to look at the circumstances, to remember to look at what the mind is doing, to develop that idea of right noble view is not a view or a point of view or an attitude so much as it is a verb of just looking and seeing. But underneath that ability to look and see is that attitude of, I can gain value by looking and seeing. And so we begin to then develop sati, which is a skill to be developed, which is the ability to remember, to come back to this present moment, remember to practice, remember to look at what we're doing, because only by looking and seeing what we're doing do we have a chance of changing. And so these are the prerequisites: the attitude, the confidence, the respect that this Dhamma works. Everybody has heard about, in medical science, they talk about a placebo. A placebo means that the person's attitude about the medicine is often so important that is even better than the medicine itself. And so they have to do blind studies, double-blind studies, to where the people who are doing the study don't even know what medicine an individual is getting, so that they can make sure that it's the medicine itself that gives the benefit. Because many people, I think, in fact, the average is about 28% of those people who are in the studies will gain benefit from being in the study, even if they're given sugar pills or sugar water. Then, in fact, that can go up to about nearly 50% if people are hospitalized, put on a heavy equipment, and given medicines through drip or whatever, and it can be just plain sterile water. It doesn't have to be saline. It doesn't have to have any medication in it at all, and people start to feel better just by taking the medicine that's not medicine at all. What does that mean? That means it is all attitude. And so this is where we have to start, is that if you have the attitude that the Dhamma is going to be of enormous value to you, guess what? It will be. Isn't that amazing? It's our attitude about the Dhamma that is what brings on the success. And the attitude that we're talking about here is that twofold attitude of having the confidence that it will work, and also the attitude of having the respect for the Dhamma, respect for the fact that one can become a Buddha, and having respect for those who are in the Sangha, the noble individuals who belong to the Sangha. And so this is a short talk that I've given today, but it's most valuable. So I would like to call on some of you. Ben, you know what I'm talking about here, I'm sure. Do you remember that you had that respect from the beginning?
Yeah, because initially I think I just found you through a YouTube search, the channel, and watched a couple of videos, and then started practicing and saw benefit in it straight away. So the confidence was easy to have, and it's only grown since then. The more you practice, the more benefit you see.
Mm-hmm. So, Ivan, do you have something to say? I remember that you were kind of slow coming in.
Yeah. I think my main confidence actually start from Keto. Like I just randomly stumbled upon him on a mental health server, and he just looked like one big happy dude. And he mentioned you like your his main teacher, and so I started practicing. Yeah, it's a bit slow, but I had a confidence from the start because I saw how happy he was.
So, Santiago, tell me about it. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, Santiago next. Oh, the first thing that drew me to the Buddhadasa, or the first thing that inspired a lot of respect for it, was the intelligence and structure of the Buddha's teaching. It was very well organized, and it didn't seem to have any like logical or philosophical holes in it, like some other teachings that I've come across, like Hindu teachings and stuff that seemed somehow incomplete. So the completeness of the Buddhadasa was something that inspired a lot of respect for it. And then the results of it, the mind-changing results, it seemed more effective than any other teaching that I've come across, and
Yes.
I've looked far and wide. It was kind of like I had to go through everything until I got to the Buddhist teaching. Yeah, like
Well,
everything else.
there are a lot of teachings that go under the name of Buddhism. And there's an
Yeah.
awful lot of teachings also that, oh, excuse me, that kind of saddle up beside the Buddha, but don't actually claim that this is the teaching of the Buddha, and sometimes they do. But in fact, the main three that I know of would be the teachings of Goenka. He talks about it as being the teaching of the Buddha, and yet it's not very complete. And then you have the second place they use the word vipassana is in the Mahasi method, where they're definitely also missing some points. And the points that they normally miss is that point of um, they get the point of looking, but they don't get the point of that you've got to change when you see that what we're doing is unwholesome. Then we have to make that change to the wholesome. That most of the teachings of the Buddha that are done primarily by lay people miss that important point of that this is a change model, that we actually have to have that change. And if you're not changing, then how can you gain any benefit? Because you're not changing. And yet, it's become quite common in the West to use this word vipassana or mindfulness meditation or insight meditation. And the Buddha didn't teach that. He didn't teach mindfulness. He didn't teach and then, in fact, if you think of it as mindfulness meditation, then that's only the sati, to remember. Also, if they talk about it as vipassana or insight meditation, that's just noble looking, that you can see, you can discern what this is. That in fact, it's very interesting that many of the those who practice vipassana uh, practice according to a document that came out of the 4th century AD, the 5th century AD, of the Visuddhimagga. It's called the 16 Stages of Insight, where there is a time when people go through really a dark state. That in fact, the Vipassana people will call it the dark night of the soul, which is in fact a typically white Christian thing. But in the West, they do go through fear, misery, anguish, disgust, despair, and then followed by a strong redoubling of their effort. What that meant is that people were not putting the right noble effort into the practice, that they were just seeing dukkha, 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 more dukkha. Let me see this dukkha. Yeah, that's dukkha too. Oh, poor me, I've got so much dukkha. And this is the style of the Mahasi method that's gained popularity in the West, to where the Goenka system, they actually put you in a state where you're in dukkha, saying, ha, can you work yourself out of it? And the answer to that is almost no one can, because they don't get that quality of having to put in the right effort to make a change. And so this is where real respect and real confidence comes in the sense of, do you have the confidence that you can change if you do change? If you change right now, will that have a residual lasting effect? And if you keep practicing over and over again, that change, in fact, will build up. It will grow. It will give you the attitude of, wow, I can, in fact, do this. And so the actual noble teachings of the Buddha are, let us say, watered down to the point of leaving things out. And that the practice of the Buddha is actually quite a complete practice, in the sense of the anapanasati of completeness, and also from the Eightfold Noble Path. And if we leave one point out, then it's going to be missing that ingredient that when plugged in, we'll gain liberation in this moment, and when we leave those things out, we stay in the ordinary state that we're in. So this is an important point, Scott, is that we need to practice all of the path, and we need to be introduced to all of the path. So let us say then that that would be a third item on top of respect and confidence that we can do it, is the knowledge that there is a complete path here and that we have to practice all of the various elements of the Eightfold Noble Path. So, Santiago, back to you.
I don't remember the question. It was like,
Well, yeah, what do you remember that you had to gain confidence, that you had to, in fact, gain that respect for the Dhamma, that this stuff is good stuff?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I got a lot of what Scott got. I ended up doing like the atheist thing, and then being Christian, and then being a Hindu, and then back and forth, and then I just looked at the Dhamma and the suttas, and I was like, there you go, you know, just. And then I went to psychology in university. I dropped out of that. That's why it's like all they're doing here is treating symptoms, not getting at the root cause. So yeah.
Yes, that's um let me tell you a little story about that. My mom was really, really dedicated to serving the Baptist church. When I was a baby, she was in the nursery. She eventually worked her way up to being the bookkeeper or the auditor, etc., like that for various churches. And that very early, I had a rift with her that caused me to lose confidence in the Baptist church. And so even though I had to go to church every Sunday, not just Sunday, gosh, we had RAs on Tuesday night. We had choir practice on Thursday night. We had prayer meeting on Wednesday night. And so much of the week was taken up by going to church. And I did go to church, but I did so out of obligation to my mother, not out of any respect for anything that they did at the church, nor did I have any confidence that the church was going to be of any value to me. So I was exposed and exposed and exposed. I became a bit of a Bible scholar just so that I could prove the preachers wrong. Well, guess what? We have people who are coming onto our Discord group with that same attitude, that we're here to prove you're wrong. So after I think that it was about the age of 16 when I finally was free from the church. But then, Santiago, I went into psychology. I went deeply into it. I had a lot of faith and a lot of confidence all the way up into the PhD part of it, where there I found that the deeper people get into the psychology, the less confidence that they had in it. And the confidence that was missing there was, oh, when I get my PhD, then what? Well, I have to go to work for the government at a low salary, or how about starting my own practice? That's really rough, because you start off with just one or two clients, and it takes a long time to build up a practice. And so around the other students and psychology, I began to lose faith in psychology. That, in fact, one of the things that I learned and knew then is that almost in all occasions, that the people who really get deep into psychology and go for the degrees in psychology were because they were psychotherapy students, perhaps as a child, and they really never got any place with it. And so they kept working, kept trying, etc., like that. They had respect for the psychology. They even had confidence in the psychology, but it was not ever fulfilled. They kept going back, and we see that, in fact, in a lot of the Buddhist practices, like Mahasi. People can get really dedicated into it. The same thing with Goenka, and the same thing with Vipassana and mindfulness meditation. People can get really deep into it and really care for it and really have respect for it and really have confidence in it and still not get the benefit from it because it's got a few pieces missing. So, in that regard, we can say that we're really lucky that, in fact, in a way, throughout all the time that I spent in India, about 3 years in the 70s and into the early 80s, going back and forth, I was looking for magic. I was really looking for the magic. These gurus, they would come, Maharishi and the mother, what's her name? I forgot. Amma, and in Bangalore, I found Satya Sai Baba, etc., like that. But they all wound up being charlatans, and so I became kind of disappointed. I started going to Goenka retreats and got really into the Goenka, and then came away. The disappointment is that even though I had the respect and the confidence, I didn't get the benefit from it that I was looking for. And so I wound up in Bodh Gaya, and there I met a monk from Thailand. I was staying at the Thai Wat in Bodh Gaya, and there was something about him that re-sparked that confidence. And I became quite eager then to go to visit Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. But it was only when I had gotten there, immediately when I'd gotten there, that I found Achan Po waiting at the gate. It had gotten late. It was about 7 o'clock in the evening, and he says, "Where have you been? I have been waiting for you." That really clicked for me. That really had a major impact upon me, and I gained confidence and respect for Achan Po that I still carry today, even though he's now 94. That was back in the early 1980s. And so I'll tell you that story in the sense that we have that very thing possible right here on Discord, that if we treat the people correctly, if we show them that we care, if we show them that we do have the Dhamma that is noble, that it is, in fact, a successful teaching, that people do come out of their dukkha. If they practice correctly, they will, in fact, become inspired. That, in fact, you could say that inspiration that is needed is actually a combination of that respect and that confidence. And so we become inspired to practice. And it's that inspiration, that dedication, that keeps us coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back, because that the issue of coming back and repeating it and doing it again and again and again and again is the necessary quality of success. So let's pick on some other people. Mikey, might as well go after you. So what do you think, huh? Did you have that confidence in the Dhamma that you do now when you were in Tulsa? You obviously did, or you would have never gotten to Thailand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, actually, to meet what I would consider to be a noble monk in Thailand, or in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he was quite old, and I remember upon first meeting him, he just put it very simply, just smile. And that was kind of an aha moment for me of like, wow, I had already been watching Dhammarato's videos and listening to Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and reading Ajahn Chah and listening to Thanissaro Bhikkhu and Ajahn Sumedho, but hearing from this noble monk and just seeing him smile and say, just smile. Say good morning with a smile. Good morning. That really kind of was the Zen stick that tapped me on the head and made me recognize, like, okay, there's something really valuable here that's by and large missing in Western culture, and in Western society, and it is worth respecting. Uh, we talk about in society how it's nice to respect our elders, right? And when we're talking about Dhamma practitioners, especially Dhamma practitioners who are elders, that's a whole nother level of respect right there that we could say is earned essentially. They earn it by just through, their experience being alive, but then also their experience doing the practice. Yeah. So, some of these big egos that are getting in the way, we really don't need to be entertaining anymore. That goes with others, but that also goes with ourselves. I'd encourage people to really start seeing this as a Sangha. Would you say some of the things that you've been saying and how you've been saying them in front of the Dalai Lama, in front of Buddhadasa, in front of the Buddha himself? If you wouldn't say it in front of them, then don't say it here. Yeah?
I like that. So that's very excellent. I would like to expand upon that just a little bit, in the sense that in the old days, children were taught to respect their elders, but something happened along with technology. I think that, in fact, the decline of respect for older people happened in the 20th century. Probably it got into full bloom in the 1950s, where radios and televisions and all of that kind of stuff started in, and the young people had that, I gotta have that goo goo gaga kind of thing. And so they started dwelling in it and living in it and changing it to where the elders were saying, oh, got along without you before I met you, I can get along without you now mentality. And so the young people became the technologist. And with that, they lost the respect for the elders because they thought that technology was the answer to the questions of life. I think people are beginning to understand that, even though that we've got AI and robotics and all kinds of stuff coming into the future, none of that stuff is going to be able to save you from your own mental shenanigans. That we have to actually practice the Dhamma, that the technology and such often gets in the way of that. And one of the ways that technology gets in the way with the young people is that they have no respect for those who do know the actual path to freedom. And so we have to instill into the new people, when they come in, this quality of respect, this quality of the attitude of confidence, that we will get some value out of this if we do practice. So, in fact, we could say then that we need three things in order to develop a successful practice. Now, if you develop a successful practice, you will gain the benefit. But the three requisites are respect for the elders, respect for the Dhamma, respect for those who know the Dhamma, the confidence that you get from being around nobles, and the third one is that you have to know the right practice. This is the whole point, is that if you have the right practice, if you have the right attitude of respect, and let us say, in fact, you could use the word curiosity. That confidence that if you go into it, you'll gain some benefit from it. So these are the things that are in fact required in order to start and develop a practice. If you start and develop a correct practice, you are bound to get valuable, good result. I can see that right here in some of the people that I've had friends with over time. That Ivan is a really good example. Wow, I can see how much change you've made, Ivan. I congratulate you. And the same thing is true for Mikey and Santiago and Anna, and especially Dhammadas and Ben, and that I can see, and also Scott. And I can see that some of the others of you here are on the way that you will gain if you continue your practice, if you continue to have the respect for the Dhamma and correct practice knowledge, then you will gain great benefit. And all of the other stuff is kind of on the side. An example of that is that young monks in the time of the Buddha were taught to practice the rules, practice restraint, speaking very little, going to the forest, and having right noble view. Because if they have the right noble view, the viewing has to do with being able to practice, and so they had those restraints, and the monks still practice that. But for lay people, we can't often go to the forest. We can't often shut our mouth. We got to talk. We got to be involved. And so the practice for the lay people is slightly different than it is for the monks. But the core point is this respect, this knowledge of how to practice, and this confidence that you're going to get something out of that practice. These are the core requirements. If you keep having those, keep practicing, you're bound to get good results. Noble results, happy results. You'll change your life completely if you practice. Ben, do you have anything to say?
Only that I agree. It's true that life changes dramatically when you practice. One thing that used to be an experience here is health anxiety. Like if there was any medical issues, I'd sort of ruminate on the issues and catastrophize about what's going to happen. Currently, the body's got a parasite and it's coughing up worms, and there's no problem. Go to the hospital. There's no problem. There's just no problems. So it's just clear benefit when you learn to keep the mind in a wholesome state. It really works.
It really does, doesn't it? Yes. So, Anna, I'd like to pick on you for a second. You're an old friend of mine, and I've seen you grow and change too. Ah, there you are. So, do you have something to add? You're actually in practice, and so it's good to get your perspective on this also. Your mic is muted.
I will continue the previous speaker. I came with a lot of fear, and somehow it began to dissolve without my control. And this is my confidence and respect. That's I would say. I think that's what I would add.
Yes, I remember that you were fearful. And I also, we've talked about it, that you have an Eastern European background where fear is taught to everybody. And so you were not alone with that. So, congratulations for coming out of your fear. That's a major, major step forward. May you continue to practice. Okay, so I'm going to pick on some of the others. Michael Swift, you've been around for a while. What do you think?
I would say, yes, I believe all of that. I haven't been on a few calls for a little while, and I'm so happy and have gotten a lot of confidence back from this call, just being back on, and I have gotten results before. And I guess I'm coming from a little bit of a different background. I'm coming from recovery, and I used to do all kinds of stuff with drugs, but the Buddhadasa is the only thing that I've found that relieves that, and it satiates that thing that I was looking for with that. So yes, I'm
Okay,
happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thank you, Dhammarato.
excellent, excellent. You're bringing up a point that I'll make about that, and that is that scientific studies about lab rats originally was how easy it is to get them hooked on drugs. That you give them two water items that they can suck on, and that the one's got pure water and the other one has got some sort of narcotics, cocaine or heroin or opioids or something like that, and that the rats would easily become addicted. But then later, another one researcher says, you know something? I think environment has something to do with this. And so they built colorful mazes, tread wheels, all kinds of other stuff, and put other rats in there. And
called
none of the rats in that situation became addicted.
called
But
Rat
in,
Park. I'm very
yeah,
familiar with the study. Yep.
yeah, the
Yeah.
rat park. Okay.
Yes.
So this is where we have it is that let the Sangha here become your own personal rat park.
Got it.
So that we don't have to go to the drugs. Drugs are basically means that we're starving for, if I can go so far as to use the low class word entertainment, but let's change that from low class entertainment into high class entertainment. To become entertained by the Dhamma, to spend time with the Dhamma, to spend time with wholesome friends, with wholesome attitudes, and we can come right out of those drugs.
Mhm.
So thanks for mentioning that. So, Christine, CV, you're kind of new here. What do you think?
I was just kind of thinking to myself about the low class word entertainment. That just made me laugh. That's it.
Well, how about your practice? Are you practicing?
I am. I am. I had an interesting conversation with my. I'll share my 11-year-old son this week. He was having a hard time and was pretty upset. And I asked him if he liked himself. I said, "Do you like yourself? Do you care about yourself?" And he said yes. And I said, "So why are you talking about yourself this way? Or why are you causing yourself harm? Don't you want to be happy?" And it kind of like changed his whole perspective. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was quite a wake up that you gave him. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So let's see. Cozy in the Rain. You're kind of new here too. You're developing a practice? Are you getting that confidence and that respect for the Dhamma?
Okay, is my mic working? Okay. Yeah, so I just earlier read the five core suttas and I was like, wow, yeah, I really understand that now. I had a while back watched some of the YouTube videos on your channel, so it's all coming together now.
Well, good. Good for you. I hope it comes together so that you can develop a practice so that you can practice often throughout the day to keep coming back to wholesome thoughts. Tom from Australia, you just joined our group. In fact, I think that this is your first call. What do you think?
Howdy. Well, let's see. I think I've kind of dabbled a little bit with different meditation practices. So it's Daniel, Lumpy Daniel, who kind of got me into the Anapanasati bandwagon. And it's been really, really good because I kind of got onto this path in a lot of ways of it was from suffering, you know? It's like I was looking for some kind of like relief. And I
Mm-hmm.
liked the idea of, like the end of suffering. Like this was, very appealing. But I did, like a lot of meditation. I've done like a few like Mahasi Vipassanas now. And it's funny, like I come out a lot of these Vipassana retreats just like stressed, like I'm just like it was an ordeal. It was a bit of a slog to get through. Um, and there's certainly a place for it, but since doing the Anapanasati stuff, it's been like I come away with like a big smile on my face, like I'm actually like feeling good, like I recommend this to people like when they're going through stuff, being like, you got to try the Anapanasati, because for me it has been like exactly what I've been like looking for this whole time. And I guess where I'm at the moment is, yeah, I've got my little practice. It's still relatively casual, but I'm seeking to deepen it. So I went up to a retreat that I stayed at a couple of months ago, for a couple of months, and just for a few days, just to find a tree, and to kind of get deep. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't think I've seen like the real fruits, the real benefits yet, and so my confidence is still, you know, good, but it's not great because I haven't seen like the real returns. But even just listening to you and certainly speaking to Daniel, I know there's something here. So
Yes.
I have a bit of faith for sure.
Excellent. I know that there's something here. I would recommend to you two things. One is that you start having calls. I would recommend that you talk to Mikey or to Alex or to Ivan, because they can help you gain the confidence. And the other one would be to start a practice, a dedicated or diligent practice, but I wouldn't call it dedicated or diligent. I'm just using those words to get you started. Basically, let's have an enthusiastic practice. Let's have a delightful practice. Let's practice because it's got value to it, and we get that value every time we do it. Oh, what a relief it is! Is kind of that attitude. Oh, wow, this stuff is good. And so if you start practicing, you can come up with that kind of attitude about it. It's good, it's useful, it's wholesome. Wow, can't do without it. Got to keep coming back over and over again. So welcome, my friend.
Satu satu.
So does anybody else have anything to say? Okie dokie, you're kind of new here too. What do you think?
I think I can see that I'm shedding a lot of dukkha these days, and I'm becoming more at peace. And yes, I can see that the practice is working for me.
Okay. I welcome you to also join. We've got a ladies channel, and I see that we're getting more and more ladies coming on. In this call, we've got 5, it looks like. So thank you for joining us, and may you gain great benefit by your practice.
Thank you,
So,
Dhammarato.
does anybody else have any last words? Dhammadasa, got to pick on you, but I know exactly what you're going to say. Nothing.
I was going to say thank you very much.
All right. So, Mikey, why don't you take this thing home?
There we go. All right, yeah. Just gonna echo what Dhammarato said. Do some one-on-one calls with people this week. I've been proposing a bit of a goal, a bit of a challenge, a wholesome one at that. Find someone new, a practitioner on the Dhamma Friends Discord that you haven't talked with before, and schedule a one-on-one call with them. Let's really make some friends here, because it's worthwhile. And it's fun to do, fun to make new friends in the Dhamma, hear the different ways people say the same thing. It's a joy, it's a delight. So yeah, if you'd like to have a call with me or Alex, Dhammadasa, there's all sorts of people, Scott, and for the ladies too, if you would like to join, we have a ladies channel, just let me know, and I can add you to that. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, for all the ladies, I would highly recommend that you make friends with Anna Sis. She's an old friend and an old student, and she's been around. She's been ordained. She lives in France now. She's an old Goenka student, and so she knows her way around the Dhamma quite well. And I highly recommend all the ladies to make friends with Anna. She also is on call for quite a lot. So, anything else? All right, so let's finish today. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been really great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Dhammarato.
Thank you.